Hi, welcome back. I'm Sudi Khan, Director of User Experience at Neuron. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about designing for mobile web. So, looking at the background and why mobile web has become so important. In short, we have a saturation of applications. There are just so many applications, a million plus in each app store, be it Google or Apple. And asking someone to download an app, even though you might think it's the greatest thing on the face of the earth, is actually a big thing. People can't just download that many apps. They typically download, depending on how much of a power user they are, about 24 apps, and from that they use a small subset. Also, if they do a search and they find you, they're not likely to download the app right away, but they will take a look at you through their browser. So again, we're going to talk about designing for mobile web. So how your website within a browser responds or adapts on a mobile screen, on a smaller screen. I'm going to start by saying, every project's different. You have to think about the context of your own user, but I'm going to give a few tips that will hopefully get you thinking along the right lines. The first thing is make it utilitarian. So boil to that home page the key functionality, and that's really the second point. So making it utilitarian is the first thing. The second thing is bringing things to the homepage as part of making it utilitarian. So, for example, if you have a website that is for the weather, and you've got all these affordances and it's very comprehensive, what might someone looking at your website through a mobile browser actually want to see when it's collapsed to that small size? What things do you bring to the surface? Maybe just the weather right where they are based on their location. Maybe it's the weather where they commonly search. You've sort of maintained that cookie, you know where they like to look for the weather, and you just pop that right up to the surface. So that's another example. Thirdly, consider the hamburger menu. Today we have things like bootstrap and a lot of people just kind of design for that, and they figure, well, the collapsing of the top level navigation into a hamburger menu is fine. Well, it might be in certain cases. Maybe if you're a service business and you've got, relatively simple, top level navigation that talks about things like about us, services, pricing, testimonials, and contact. But in some cases, for example, let's say you have just 3 things on your top level navigation. Do you really want to collapse them into a hidden options menu where those affordances are not shown to the user right away? Probably not. Maybe you want to show all 3 of those things and not even go towards the hamburger or options menu. In other cases, you might have a lot of things, but you want to pull 2 or 3 key things out of that options or hamburger menu and bring those to the surface. So consider it very carefully. Don't simply just use something that's given to you as affordance, and consider the fact that, oh, now my top level navigation has been collapsed as kind of, and maybe my text relayed out as kind of the end all be all for designing for mobile web. Minimize your amount of text. That's another key point. Most practitioners do this already when they're thinking about the web, because we know people in general tend to scan things. They have very little sort of patience. They're looking for key pieces of information, but you have to take that one step further. You really have to tighten up your text when you're designing for mobile web. Increase the size of your touch targets. If you can imagine something like Yahoo's homepage just being shown on mobile web, and before websites were optimized, if you can think as far back as 2006 when the first iPhone came out, you really did see Yahoo's entire homepage, and you'd have to kind of move around and zoom in to find what you wanted. So keep in mind that the size of the touch targets, meaning the size of buttons and the space between the center of those buttons. In general, you probably want to go deeper rather than wider. And I don't mean that in terms of a hidden affordance like a options menu that might be collapsed, but I mean that in terms of if you look at your sitemap, in general, you want to go deeper rather than wider, so you're not showing too much information at once. Rather, you want to have a path towards a goal that's very, very light. So it might be a lighter series of more screens, but the user can get through them very, very quickly. You have large touch targets, and the user can get to their goal. So in general, for mobile web, you want to go deeper rather than wider. And lastly, I would say create your own set of heuristics for mobile web. From the onset, think about who your user is, what key functionality they want in the mobile environment. And by that, I mean they're probably on the go, they might be multitasking, they have a limited screen size. So really think about redesigning things to optimize them for the mobile experience. So that's it. I hope that helps. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care.